Hello and welcome. This is episode 4 of Dungeons and Dragons and DoorDash. Little bit of rain today, but that's not going to stop us. It is not. We've driven in worse. All right, let's see what is on the adventure for today. Dash is ready to take on his next adventure.
The mahogany doors of the Infinite Curio part with a soft, melodic chime, welcoming you back from the parlor. You've barely finished your fairy-sized plate of fresh starfruit and nectar when you see Lord Alistair Finch practically vibrating with theatrical excitement behind his massive desk. He isn't lounging this time. He is standing over a giant, dusty parchment map that has been weighed down on all four corners by heavy brass hourglasses. Ah, Dash. Perfect timing. My miniature marvel, Finch beams, dusting a fleck of ancient glitter off his velvet lapel. No rest for the brilliantly bureaucratic. The ledger has given us a truly delicious case. We are tracking a skip tracer down in the Clockwork Canyons. He taps the map, and a shimmering, brassy illusion of a deep, rusted canyon grid rises from the table. I need you to recover the pocket watch of pendulum restraint, Finch explains, his tone turning delightfully serious. It's a masterwork timepiece capable of temporarily freezing local kinetic energy. Handy for catching runaway trains, or, say, stopping a giant rolling boulder trap. Finch leans forward, resting his chin on his hands. The debtor is a rogue gnome tinkerer named Thaddeus Tick-Tock Thistle. 3 decades ago, he financed the watch to build a grand, automated mining operation. He went completely off the grid, defaulted on his payments, and has used the watch's time-warping capabilities to turn an abandoned copper mine into his own personal trap-filled fortress called the Gearheart Redoubt. Finch points out 3 critical vectors on the glowing canyon map. The Rust Grate checkpoint, the only ground entrance into the canyon. It's guarded by a massive, semi-sentient clockwork junk golem named Scrap Heap, who processes incoming shipments and flattens any unauthorized flesh and blood visitors. The Conveyor Labyrinth, a dizzying multi-level network of rapidly moving brass conveyor belts, crushing pistons, and automated sorting claws that transport raw copper ore through the canyon. The Chrono Forge Balcony, a high steam-venting platform suspended over a lake of molten bronze. That is where Tick-Tock Thistle sits in a mechanized pilot chair, tinkering away and keeping the pocket watch attached to his central power rig. Thistle is incredibly paranoid and has rigged the entire canyon to run like a hyper-efficient clockwork trap, Finch warns, offering you a tiny, silver-plated magnifying glass. But after what you did to Barnacle, I have a feeling your particular brand of regulatory inspection is exactly the wrench his gears need. Step through when you're ready, Dash. With a dramatic flourish, a swirling rift of copper and violet light fractures the air, smelling intensely of ozone, hot machine oil, and metallic dust. You flutter through the portal and land on a jagged ledge of deep, rust-red rock. The air is warm and heavy with the rhythmic, mechanical heartbeat of the canyon. Thump. Clack. Hiss. A few hundred yards ahead, the canyon walls narrow into a massive canyon floor entirely dominated by the Gearheart Redoubt. Towering brass pipes pump green steam into the sky, and giant, interlocking gears the size of houses churn the earth below. Right at the mouth of the canyon stands the Rust Grate checkpoint, a towering, 12-foot-tall golem, made entirely of mismatched gears, rusted sheet metal and glowing red furnace eyes, is currently sorting through a pile of iron crates, tossing them into a roaring furnace with terrifying strength. The stage is set, Dash hotly. Your level 2 stats are locked in, your wits are sharp, and the pocket watch of pendulum restraint is ticking away somewhere in that mechanical maze. What's your opening move?
Okay, I really don't want to mess with the golem just yet. Let me look around and find the biggest, heaviest clockwork gear or piece of ore that I can lift and carry, and fly it up into the air toward the center where Tick-Tock's got his main setup, and with enough height and velocity, I want to hurl the whatever it is I picked up at the center area where he's at. Obviously, no, not trying to hit him necessarily, but I want to give the impression that there's been a malfunction with the golem, and it tossed this piece of debris with such might and force that it reached the center area, and there's a malfunction elsewhere that requires Tick-Tock's attention.
You look down at the towering, 12-foot-tall scrap heap golem and decide that a direct physical confrontation is a terrible idea for a fairy of your stature. You turn your attention to the surrounding canyon ledges, scouting for the perfect tool to cause a little automated corporate friction. Behind a jagged ridge of ironstone, completely out of the golem's line of sight, you spot exactly what you need: a discarded, heavy copper gear shaft. It's solid, severely rusted, and weighs a hefty amount, but with your 30-foot flying speed and fey agility, you manage to heft the metallic mass into your arms. You beat your iridescent wings hard, lifting off into the warm, oil-scented thermals of the canyon. You fly higher and higher, staying close to the rugged red rock walls to mask your silhouette, until you clear the thickest layer of green steam venting from the lower pipes. From this spectacular bird's-eye vantage point, you look deep into the heart of the canyon. There, suspended directly over a bubbling, incandescent lake of molten bronze, is the Chrono Forge balcony. You can see the tiny, frantic figure of Thaddeus TikTok Thistle, wearing leather welder's goggles, strapped into a massive mechanized pilot chair surrounded by hundreds of humming control levers. You position yourself perfectly in the upper air currents, aligning your trajectory so that the heavy gear shaft will fly over the main conveyor labyrinth and look like it originated directly from the sorting pile at the front gate where Scrap Heap is throwing crates. You take aim, brace your feet, and with a mighty fey heave, you hurl the heavy copper gear shaft downward into the canyon's intricate machinery. Behind the scenes, I am going to roll an athletics/ranged attack roll with your modifiers to see how perfectly you nail this long-distance distraction strike. Clack, clack. Whoosh! The heavy gear shaft plummets through the steam, slicing clean through the air. It misses TikTok's head by a few yards, but it strikes the main primary power line connecting his balcony to the lower furnaces with a thunderous metallic crash clang. Sparks explode in a brilliant sheet of blue and orange electricity. The sudden impact violently jolts one of the automated sorting claws, causing it to malfunction and smash directly into a moving conveyor belt full of raw ore. Screech, grind, bang. A catastrophic mechanical traffic jam ripples through the mid-level grid. The rhythmic heartbeat of the canyon instantly turns into a chaotic, groaning screech of grinding brass teeth. Up on the high balcony, TikTok Thistle leaps 3 feet out of his mechanized pilot chair, his welding goggles flying off his forehead. He grabs a brass megaphone and looks furiously toward the front entrance, where the Scrap Heap golem is currently standing in a pile of smashed iron crates, looking entirely confused by the sudden power surge. Scrap Heap, you brainless pile of unlubricated junk. Thistle screams down the canyon, his voice cracking with paranoid rage. Did you just throw an intake valve into the primary kinetic power lines? I told you to sort the copper, not weaponize it. You've completely destabilized the alignment of the third-tier pistons. Thistle frantically throws his mechanized chair into gear, completely focused on pulling levers and screaming commands at the front gates through his megaphone to reset the golem's targeting parameters. The Master Tinkerer is totally occupied. The lower conveyor lines are in absolute screeching gridlock, and the airspace between you and the high balcony is temporarily clear of moving pistons. What's your next move, Inspector Dash?
I'd like to make a stealthy approach toward the center engineering area. Let's use the steam for cover as much as we can, and if possible, come in from the direction of the sun to obscure good vision of myself. And as I approach closer, please describe the area in detail for me.
You drop low into the rising plumes of green steam, using the thick, warm vapor to completely mask your approach. Your iridescent fairy wings buzz silently as you navigate the roiling clouds, keeping yourself perfectly obscured from both the confused golem below and the frantic gnome above. To ensure absolute stealth, you circle wide around the upper perimeter of the canyon walls until you are positioned directly in front of the blinding midday sun. By flying down along the sunbeams, anyone looking in your direction from the engineering platform would be staring directly into a piercing glare, making your tiny silhouette completely invisible. Thanks to this brilliant tactical approach, you glide closer and closer, completely undetected, eventually landing on a narrow, shadowed iron pipe running just beneath the lip of the Chrono Forge balcony. From this hidden, up-close vantage point, the engineering center unfolds in spectacular, chaotic detail. The Chrono Forge balcony, up close. The master station. The platform itself is a semicircular grating of reinforced iron, suspended by massive brass chains directly over a swirling, blindingly hot lake of molten bronze. The heat rising from below creates a shimmering distortion in the air, but the platform stays cool thanks to a ring of frosting coolant pipes. The command chair. In the center sits Thaddeus TikTok Thistle's mechanized pilot seat, It looks like a high-backed leather throne, bolted into a heavy brass chassis, completely surrounded by rings of multicolored levers, hydraulic foot pedals, and glowing pressure gauges. The power rig, bolted directly to the right armrest of the pilot chair, is an elaborate, humming brass armature. This rig channels raw, pulsing kinetic energy straight from the canyon's primary power lines into a centralized velvet-lined cradle. The target, sitting snugly inside that power cradle, is the pocket watch of pendulum restraint. It is a gorgeous, oversized silver pocket watch with a ticking topaz pendulum that swings with a slow, hypnotic rhythm, completely defying the hyper-fast pacing of the surrounding factory. Every time the pendulum hits its apex, a faint, translucent ring of distorted time ripples outward, stabilizing the vibrating platform. The debtor, Tick-Tock Thistle, is currently thrown forward over the left console, his back entirely turned to you. He is furiously hammering a jammed lever with a brass wrench, muttering curses under his breath. "Work, you miserable piece of oversized scrap." The third piston is misaligned by 4 millimeters. 4 millimeters. The master tinkerer is entirely focused on his repairs. The blinding sun is at your back, and the silver pocket watch is sitting completely exposed in its cradle on the right side of his chair, scarcely 10 feet away from your hiding spot on the pipe. The stage is perfectly set for a heist dash. What's your move?
Okay, my goal is to get him out of his chair. So I'd like to stay concealed, but fly underneath the platform. And my target is going to be the cooling pipes. I'm going to use Eldritch Blast on the cooling pipes on the opposite side of where I am, and just blast it.
You drop silently from your perch, dipping beneath the lip of the iron platform. The heat rising from the molten bronze lake below hits your face like a physical wall, but your seafoam silk robe sweeps around you as you navigate the structural beams, staying completely out of Thistle's sightline. You trace the ring of frosting coolant pipes running along the undercarriage of the balcony. Stealthily maneuvering to the far side, you align your shot so the blast will strike the pipes directly opposite your previous hiding spot. You extend a hand through the iron grating, channeling your warlock spark. Pew! A beam of crackling, violet eldritch energy erupts from your fingers, smashing squarely into the pressurized coolant line. Crack blam! The structural pipe ruptures spectacularly. Instead of a standard explosion, the high-pressure sub-zero frosting fluid instantly flashes into a violent, expanding geyser of freezing Arctic mist and jagged ice crystals. The extreme temperature differential between the freezing coolant and the molten lake below creates a massive, localized pneumatic pop. What in the name of the cog? Thistle shrieks as a freezing wave of white fog and ice shards blasts over the opposite side of his console, instantly flash freezing his left-hand pressure gauges and covering his welder's goggles in thick frost. The emergency klaxons on his chair begin to blare a frantic, high-pitched wee-oo. Thermal rupture. Structural contraction on the port side. Thistle panics, his voice cracking. He completely drops his wrench, desperately slapping at a series of manual override levers. The coolant lines are blowing. If the balcony warps, the whole chassis slides into the bronze. Realizing his mechanical control levers are frozen solid, Thistle unbuckles his safety harness with frantic, trembling hands. He leaps out of the mechanized pilot chair, pulling a heavy pneumatic wrench from his belt, and scrambles over toward the ruptured, fog-shrouded pipe on the far left side of the platform to manually crank the emergency shutoff valve. The pilot chair is completely empty. The pocket watch of pendulum restraint sits totally unguarded in its velvet-lined cradle on the right armrest. Because Thistle is on the far side of the platform, blinded by a cloud of thick, freezing Arctic mist, and furiously hammering on a valve, the right side of the chair is entirely clear. You are still perfectly concealed beneath the grating right near the prize dash. What's your move?
Perfect. While he's distracted, I'm gonna sneak over as quickly as I can, but as quietly as I can, even though he's quite distracted. Sit in the chair, buckle in, and extract the pocket watch from its holder.
You pop up from beneath the grating like a phantom, your seafoam silk robe catching the thermal drafts as you glide across the right side of the platform. Thistle is completely lost in the freezing Arctic fog on the far side, desperately screaming curses at a stubborn valve over the loud wee-woo of the emergency sirens. You slide into the massive leather pilot seat, buckled in by the oversized safety harness, looking like a tiny monarch on a massive, mechanical throne. Right next to your right hand, the pocket watch of pendulum restraint hums with a deep, soothing resonance. You reach out, click the brass release latches on the velvet-lined cradle, and smoothly slide the heavy silver and topaz timepiece from its housing. The moment it clears the power rig, the slow, rhythmic tick-tick-tick of its pendulum transfers a strange, heavy stillness directly into your hands. The primary power line suddenly surges without its regulator. Down below, the lake of molten bronze bubbles violently, and the blaring sirens shift into a frantic, hyperspeed stutter. Thistle finally bangs the emergency valve shut, cutting off the freezing fog. He wipes his frosted goggles, turns around shivering, and freezes dead in his tracks. His eyes go wide as saucers as he stares through the thinning mist at his command chair. Sitting right there in his personalized throne, impeccably dressed in a luxury seafoam green robe and tortoiseshell sunglasses, is a tiny fairy calmly holding his multi-million gold chronomantic asset. What? Who? You? Thistle shrieks, his paranoid little face turning a vibrant shade of volcanic red. Get out of my kinetic stabilizer chair. Put down the pendulum. What kind of regulatory madness is this? He raises his pneumatic wrench, entirely furious but completely unsure of how to tackle a flying VIP who is currently buckled into his factory's main control hub. The watch is in your hands, Dash, and you are literally in the driver's seat of the entire canyon. What is your legendary closing move?
Ooh, I'll wonder out loud. What do these buttons do? And I will start pressing buttons willy-nilly at random. The entire while being fully prepared to unbuckle and fly myself out of this situation if need be.
You look at the furious, red-faced gnome, tilt your tortoiseshell sunglasses down, and let out a delightfully innocent theatrical gasp. Ooh, you wonder out loud, your voice carrying perfectly over the dying alarms. What do these buttons do? Thaddeus Tick-Tock, Thistle's eyes, practically pop out of his skull. Wait, no. Don't touch the smash. Slap. Click. You start slamming levers, flipping toggles, and mashing glowing hydraulic foot pedals completely willy-nilly. The results are instantaneous and catastrophic for the factory's workflow, but a total masterpiece of entertainment. The first lever, the massive, 12-foot scrap heap golem at the front gate, suddenly stops its sorting, its furnace eyes flashing a bright, festive pink. It begins violently throwing raw copper ore crates high into the air, like a hyperactive juggler. The second toggle, the entire multi-level network of the conveyor labyrinth reverses direction at Mach 2. Belts slam backward, crushing pistons smash into each other with deafening bangs, and automated sorting claws begin aggressively throwing rocks at the walls. The big red pedal, the frosting coolant pipes, completely rupture, sending a massive, high-pressure geyser of Arctic mist shooting straight up into the air, creating a beautiful, localized indoor blizzard right over the molten bronze lake. My alignment, my perfect kinetic balance. Thistle wails, dropping his wrench and throwing his hands over his ears as the entire canyon descends into beautifully uncoordinated chaos. With the factory completely melting down around him, you calmly pop the oversized safety harness, slide the pocket watch of pendulum restraint securely into your seafoam robe, and launch yourself into the air. As you rocket up into the warm thermals, clearing the freezing fog, you look back down to see Thistle frantically chasing his runaway pilot chair, which is now spinning in circles on the vibrating balcony like a carnival ride. Right on cue, the air ahead of you fractures. A magnificent swirling rift of copper and violet light cracks open, smelling of hot machine oil, ancient library dust, and Lord Finch's signature expensive cologne. You breeze right through the portal, leaving the clanking, grinding, snowy chaos of the Clockwork Canyons behind. Adventure complete. You stick the landing on the plush velvet rugs of the Infinite Curio, executing a flawless touchdown. Lord Alistair Finch is sitting at his desk, casually sipping tea from a delicate porcelain cup. As you pull the ticking silver and topaz pocket watch from your robe and set it down next to his ledger, he lets out a sharp, thoroughly delighted laugh. Willy-nilly button mashing, Dash? Truly the highest tier of mechanical auditing, Finch purrs, his eyes gleaming as he picks up the watch, admiring the slow, hypnotic swing of its pendulum. Thistle's automated empire won't be ticking straight for a century. Phenomenal work, darling. The board is going to write songs about your asset recovery metrics. He snaps his fingers, and a fresh page of your wooden ledger glows with golden ink, officially archiving assignment number 4. You are still firmly at level 2, keeping that beautiful, classic, long-term campaign pacing, but your reputation in the Curio is absolutely untarnished. Take a well-deserved rest from the road, drive safe, and whenever you're ready to see what kind of wild, whimsical debtor Lord Finch has lined up for assignment number 5, just drop a line and we'll kick it off.
Another adventure complete, another artifact recovered, and just some side notes, I guess. It's interesting that everybody seems to have had their artifacts overdue for either 3 decades or 3 centuries, or like a little bit of a theme there. So clearly my boss is real lax, and I guess has developed a reputation for being so, and so people just sort of take advantage of it. I don't know. I think next time I might want to go back and visit some people I've interacted with before, just to develop a little bit of world continuity. So we'll see how that goes. But thanks for riding along with me. Hope you enjoyed it. I did. And have a great rest of your day. Bye now.